The people who's your incredible talent are the people who focus on doing the best they can in their craft. You know, they're the people who are acting all the time. They're the people who are workshopping all the time. They're the people who are trying to be the best actors that they can be, and those are the ones you should want to cast. And sadly, if they're professional, if they're a member of the Guild or the Union, that's a little bit tougher, because it does mean, well, if you don't have money. But we do have the SAG agreements here, and you'll find out that sometimes that can be more reasonable than not, and worth it often. But that aside, go out and look for good actors that you see in theater, in other shorts, in school, and find the best actors that you can find. Your job, really, if you're a casting director or a producer, or especially if you're a director, is knowing two things. I said before, having a great story and casting great. But really, your job is to be able to recognize a great story and recognize good talent when you see it. There are a lot of people who cast movies and make movies that you go, well, why would they do that? Why did they put that person in there? So that's the responsibility of the filmmaker, as far as I'm concerned. Recognize a great story and then chase after it so that you can get it made. Recognize great talent and do whatever you can to get them into your project. And sometimes if you got a great story, if you really have a great story, you can get great talent to do lots of things, because they're always looking for great stories. So a lot of these SAG actors or Hollywood actors are desperately looking for good projects to do. And will take pay breaks and do all sorts of things because there's just not that many good movies are being made. So you can work deals, you can do all sorts of things. But casting is finding the right person for the job and to cast as well as you can for what you can afford. And money does make a difference. You know, they're paying Brad Pitt, or they're paying, you know, can't even think of who I was going to say. Name a famous woman actress.
Jane Lynch.
Jane Lynch. I wouldn't have thought of her, but yeah. But they're paying. No, I mean, I loved her on the Emmys. I like her, and I love her. I like Glee, because I sit there and people don't like Glee. They think that's really silly, or they go, "Rex, why you like Glee? Are you nuts?" No, you know what? I'm watching people who are triple threats. They sing, they dance, they act. Sure, everything is corny and it's sexual innuendo and it's all this kind of crappy, kind of garbage kind of stuff. But the talent, I go, God, I wish I could sing like that. I wish I were 20 years old and I could dance and sing and have that career that they have right now. And I watch these people, I go, it must be great to have a good voice and be able to go out there and belt out the choke tunes. So all the time I was acting, I was too busy wanting to be a dramatic actor that I'm not going to do those things. So I never developed that thing. Now that I'm older, I look back and go, God, what a waste of time. How much fun it would be to be able to dance. Look at Christopher Walken. He started as a dancer. So, anyway, the idea is, as a filmmaker, you should be thrilled. And casting can be an incredibly complex, boring process. It can be an absolutely delightful and exotic and exquisite process. It's what you will make of it. So, ideally, what you do is you take your script and you break it down. You can break it down for budget, you can break it down for shooting, you can break it down for casting. And typically in Hollywood, there's breakdown of services. It was a service started by a guy named Gary Marsh 35 years ago in Hollywood, and it's become standard around the world. And they break down, and I talked to Gary on my show recently, and so we asked about the starting of breakdown services. He said, well, I was doing it for my mom, who was an agent at the time anyway, kind of thing. You know, but now he's multi-millionaire years later, and he started Actors Access and a whole bunch of other websites devoted to actors being able to put themselves out there for casting directors to be able to see, so that if you're living in Milwaukee, you don't even have to live in Hollywood anymore, because you can just upload your stuff to websites, national websites, where casting directors actually do go and visit. But each character is broken down into a little bit of character description of what the essential important parts of the characters. 20 lean, you know, white, 20 lean, African American, 20 lean, female, Indian, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, that's a physical description. And then something about what they are like, you know, their personality is like. Maybe what they're attempting to do. Usually just a paragraph, you know, a few sentences. And that goes out to the casting directors in Hollywood from breakdown services and goes out to the agents. So the casting directors know what the roles call for, and the agents now know what the roles are, and then they start submitting. And I don't know if it was Gary or if it was the agent or somebody said typically that like within the hour that a breakdown goes out, over 900 to 1,000 submissions are made within that first hour by people. They're just like bang, people just jump on this thing, agents and everything else. Now, the breakdown comes from the writer. The writer could be a director, it could be a writer, who wrote the script for these characters. And the agents, what they will typically say is, oh, you want a 9-year-old Latino boy. Well, how about a 12-year-old Caucasian girl? They will suggest counter to what they're looking for on the offset chance that they go, we're going to cast against type here. In other words, maybe the writer or the director didn't think that the 12-year-old Caucasian girl could fill the role. So they make all these suggestions and people have to weed through it. And the job of the casting director is to start weeding through all of these different submissions in order to try and fulfill what they think the director's vision is. And so they have to have a clear idea of what the director wants. And so the director and the casting director have to get together. And oftentimes in Hollywood they will say, I want a Jane Lynch type. Get me Jane Lynch. Oh, you can't give me, well, give me a Jane Lynch type. Give me a young Jane, this is an old joke. It's get me Jane Lynch. Okay, I can't. Get me a Jane Lynch type. Okay, but give me a young Jane Lynch. And then suddenly it's like, who's Jane Lynch? Because that's the career trajectory of Hollywood. But, so you say, well, give me a young Jane Lynch type. Well, it kind of embodies a certain aspect of what you want. And you hear this all the time. So, well, I want Brad Pitt to star in this. Or, well, or a Brad Pitt-like person. Or I want somebody. Well, you have your idea. The director has the idea. He or she has the idea of who's going to be in these parts. The casting just starts filtering through, looking at pictures. And in Hollywood, the truth of the matter is usually it's the look. Does this person look like the part? Do they look like what we're trying to portray on the screen? Yes. No. Yes. They will also look at credits at some point. In other words, depending on the size of the role, does this person have the experience to pull this off? Let's say a person is going to act opposite Jack Nicholson. They want to know that when they're acting opposite Jack Nicholson that they don't, they got one line, They got, in there, sir. That when it comes time to do their scene, they're not going to take 20 takes to go, in there, sir, because they're intimidated by Nicholson. They want to know that this person has done enough stuff and worked with enough high-powered people, even if they haven't worked with Nicholson enough, to be able to deliver. Because when all is said and done, whether it's a no-budget, micro-budget thing, or whether it's a multi-million-dollar movie, time, money, energy, or dollars are being spent every time you have to reshoot something. So, by the way, if you're shooting on chips, and your camera is opposed to videotape, DV tape, shooting on chips, just because you can doesn't mean you should spend the entire day taking more takes of something, because that's wastage. I mean, in other words, and this has nothing to do with casting, but it has to do with filmmaking. That is, just because you could shoot 6,000 takes doesn't make it any better. You know what I'm saying? One, you're going to wear your actor out, so that's something you completely understand. Your actor's good for a few takes, not 100 takes, not 20 takes. So you want to get it, where your actor is the best. But secondly, in Hollywood, where everything was done on film, they had what was called the shot ratio. It was like 3 to 1 or something like that. This shot, you get 3 chances to get it right. If you don't get it right, we're moving on to the next shot.